Today on Steelers Talk, I'm going to tell you why Mike Tomlin, the Steelers head coach, has already made up his mind on who his quarterback one is going to be for Week 1 versus Atlanta and why that quarterback is going to be Russell Wilson. Then we'll talk a little bit about Brandon Aiyuk and why you can expect these trade rumors surrounding Aiyuk to ramp up in a significant way over the next 2 days on Monday and Tuesday. But before we get to all the Steelers content for you guys today, we actually started a brand new Instagram account for this channel, a new Steelers Talk Instagram page where we're going to be putting out daily Steelers news items in your social media feeds, and then also channel updates. So if we change our live schedule, if we're going live for a breaking news, say Brandon Aiyuk gets traded this week, we'll put out an announcement on there as well. So if you want the latest channel and Steelers updates, you guys can find us at SteelersCS on IG. And I'll tell you guys what, today's promotion is anybody and everybody who gives us a follow at SteelersCS on Instagram is going to get a shout out on a future edition of Steelers Talk. So without further ado, let's get into today's content here. And let's start with Russell Wilson and why I believe Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin has already made up his mind that Russ will be the Steelers QB1 when the team lines up against the Atlanta Falcons on the road in Week 1 of the 2024 NFL season. But Jack, Mike Tomlin said after the final preseason game, he hasn't made his mind up yet, and they're gonna wait to a whole nother week before deciding who is going to be QB1. And yes, Mike Tomlin did say that. But here's what's going on, guys. I think it's pretty obvious. Mike Tomlin's trying to maintain a competitive advantage by keeping every single one of their opponents this year in the National Football League in the dark as to who exactly is going to be the Steelers starting quarterback this year. Because think of it, right now, every single team that plays the Steelers this year is going to have to prepare for both Russell Wilson's play style and Justin Fields' play style. But if Mike Tomlin just came out and said Russ is our starter, then in his mind that would give or that would not be taking advantage of a competitive advantage, because that allows these opponents that this team is going to be playing to hone in on Russ's weaknesses and his strengths and tailor their game plan specifically for Russell Wilson. So how much of an advantage is it? I'm not too sure, but I think Mike Tomlin's trying to maintain any competitive advantage that exists by keeping the rest of the NFL in the dark. But I honestly don't think Mike Tomlin is as sneaky as he thinks he is, man. I think that there's been a lot of breadcrumbs, lots of hints that he's been dropping all throughout the offseason and preseason to this point that makes me think that Russell Wilson, he's already made up his mind that he's going to be starting Russ Week 1 against Atlanta and to start this season. So a couple of those hints. I mean, we had reports come out earlier in the offseason from people like Brooke Pryor from ESPN, Mark Caboli, formerly with The Athletic, now with the Pat McAfee Show, others saying that, you know, they've already told Russell Wilson that he's going to be the starting quarterback this year, and they've told Justin Fields that he is not going to be the starter this year. And essentially what their plan is that they're just going to keep teams in the dark. Especially if you listen to Russell Wilson talk as well, guys, he does not sound like somebody that feels like his starting job is in jeopardy. So it's certainly a possibility that Mike Tomlin has approached both men and have said, you know what, Russ, you're going to be the starter. Fields, you're going to be the backup this year. You're going to learn from Russ. But we want to maintain this facade that this is going to be a QB competition to keep everybody else in the NFL kind of in the dark here, to give us a competitive advantage. So I think those reportings from earlier this offseason kind of confirm that. Then also, when Russell Wilson had a slight and minor injury to his calf, what did the Steelers do? They did what any other team would do with their franchise starting quarterback and sit him and be conservative with him, right? Plus, it gave them a really good opportunity to see what Justin Fields could do, evaluate him as a potential long-term option at the quarterback position. And Russell Wilson's a veteran. He doesn't need these reps in training camp as much as a guy like maybe a Justin Fields, who is a younger quarterback. So listen, if this was a true quarterback competition, in my opinion, they would have almost rushed Russell Wilson back to get him on the field so that they could get a really good comparison between Wilson and Fields. That didn't happen. They were extremely careful with Russ, which tells me that he is their plan at QB1. And then also, I mean, just looked at this past weekend. again, on Saturday's game against Detroit, they had one drive. Russell Wilson took 2 pass attempts, and then they got him out of there. You don't do that to somebody that's competing for his job, right? If it was a true competition between Russ and Fields, they would have played both guys evenly, and they would have played both guys with the first-team offense, but that's not what happened, right? So if Russ's job was, in fact, in danger, he would have gotten more than 2 pass attempts, and he would have gotten more than 1 drive. But instead, Mike Tomlin does what most teams do with their starting quarterback, and that's play them for 1 drive. It ended in a touchdown. All right, Russ, your day is over. So I do think at this point, all the hints and all the information that we have at our disposal tells us that Russell Wilson is going to be your starting quarterback for week 1. But I want to make absolutely clear, Russell Wilson hasn't proven anything as the Pittsburgh Steelers starting quarterback. He's going to have to go out there in the regular season and earn everything that he gets, including his starting job, all right? Because if he goes out there and the team is struggling and the team is losing games, they're going to turn to Justin Fields, all right? Because he is very talented. He has had a pretty darn good training camp in preseason, okay? So even though Justin Fields is a bit more volatile, I'm not sure if he's exactly the type of quarterback that they want heading into the year, because I think Russ is more of an efficient game manager, whereas Justin Fields is a bit more volatile. He puts the ball in harm's way more often. He doesn't see open receivers as much as Russ does, in my opinion. He doesn't process information as well. So I think the Steelers, with the roster that they have, feel like they can win with an efficient game manager like Russ, but make no mistake, the preseason doesn't matter at all. He's going to have to go out there and prove that he deserves to be the QB1 of this football team moving forward. So predict it for me down there in the comments section. Barring injury, let's say Russell Wilson is healthy for all 17 games of this season. Do you think he starts every single one of those 17 games over Justin Fields? Now, keep in mind, if the answer that you're going to give here is no, that likely means the Pittsburgh Steelers don't make the playoffs this year, okay? So give me a yes or a no. Predict it for me down there in the comments section for today's pinned comment. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our friends at Prize Picks. And while I'm talking about Prize Picks, go down there in the comments section, find that pinned comment, and give me a yes or a no. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Prize Picks, which is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports right on your phone. And unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. So all you have to do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and then watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become a part of the Prize Picks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks, which means you can turn $10 into $1,000. That is, if you know ball. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. So let's take a look at my Prize Picks projection for tonight's Sunday Night Football matchup here between the Washington Commanders and New England Patriots. I'm going to take the less on passing yards for Drake May, the more on receiving yards for Javon Baker, and I'm going to take the more on receiving yards for Mitchell Tinsley. So if you want to get in on the fun, right now, all you guys got to do is download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS on the Prize Picks app for a deposit match up to $100 today. Prize Picks, run your game. So when it comes to the Brandon Aiyuk situation, guys, I know we're all tired of it at this point. And I think the good news is because NFL Cutdown Day is coming up soon, I do think that we're going to get a resolution within the next couple of days, all right? Whether that be Monday, whether that be Tuesday, maybe even Wednesday, we'll see. But Tuesday is a major deadline in the National Football League because that is the official Cutdown Day for every single team in the National Football League. They have to get everything from their 53-man roster finalized by that date. And I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are definitely a team that's going to want to have clarity in terms of which players are going to be on their roster moving forward heading into week 1. I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers will trade for Brandon Aiyuk. Let's say it's the Thursday before the week 1 matchup against Atlanta. I don't think Pittsburgh's willing to wait that long. And I think by Tuesday, when that deadline hits, they're going to want to know, and they're going to want to have a resolution, and they're going to want to have a final answer answer as to whether or not Brandon Aiyuk is going to be playing for them this year. Because let's face it, man, we're 2 weeks away from week 1, and if Aiyuk's going to be a Steeler and ready to play in that first game against Atlanta, he's going to need time with Russell Wilson. He's going to need time with Justin Fields, whoever the starting quarterback is. Cough, cough, Russell Wilson. But, he needs time with these guys. He needs to learn the offense, all this different stuff. So I do think that the Steelers will probably set a hard deadline. We need to make this done. We need to get this done by that deadline. If we can't get it done, we're moving away. All right, we are moving on. We're picking up a John Mechie or a Robert Woods or a Xavier Hutchinson in free agency instead of getting Brandon Aiyuk. Tomorrow's video, we're actually going to be breaking down some cut candidate free agency options for the Pittsburgh Steelers at this position if they can't land Aiyuk. But in my opinion, guys, if Brandon Aiyuk's going to be a Steeler, the deadline is most likely on Tuesday. So if a trade does happen and he does become a Pittsburgh Steeler, okay, guys, we're going to be going live for 11 straight hours right here on Steelers Talk. So make sure you click that subscribe button right now to never miss a breaking news story on the Pittsburgh Steelers right here on Steelers Talk. Now, before I go here, we do have one more little bit of news that just broke here, and that is that Dylan Cook, reserve offensive tackle, is going to be out multiple weeks with a foot injury. Now, he is a reserve player, so some people might think, well, he's probably gone from the team now, but I don't know if that's exactly the case. Here is the report from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler breaking the news. Dylan Cook expected to miss several weeks with a foot injury per source. Pittsburgh already beat up across the offensive line. Now lose Cook, a key reserve player. Now, you guys have to remember here that the NFL does now allow teams to hold 2 players on IR that can still come back during the season. So I do think that Cole Holcomb, the linebacker, is going to be one of those players, right? He is somebody that was a starter for this team last year, and if he can come back healthy during the season, and if there's any shot of that, Pittsburgh's going to take that chance. So I do think Holcomb will probably be one of those players. And right now with this injury, if they really feel like Dylan Cook is an important part of this team and they want him as a reserve offensive tackle, they might use the other spot on him. Now, they could do a couple of different things here. And what this news could mean 2 things here. And the first one is that the Steelers could potentially cut Dylan Cook and then go out and get a guy like Donovan Smith in free agency. Donovan might be looking for maybe more of a starting type role, not a reserve role. But Smith has won 2 Super Bowls as a starting left tackle over the last 4 seasons in the National Football League, still a free agent. So who knows, maybe he could be a possibility for the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially if they don't believe in Broderick Jones, which, hopefully that's not the case at this point. But then another thing that this could mean is that Spencer Anderson, who can play on the interior and on the exterior as a tackle, might have just made the team. All right, so he's somebody that could absolutely make the team due to this injury. But no matter what happens here, we are wishing Dylan Cook a speedy recovery here at Steelers Talk. And if you're with me on that, make sure you spam those 60s, his number down there in the chat, to wish Dylan Cook a full and speedy recovery right now, guys. And that'll be it for today's show. Tomorrow we have Steelers Talk live at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you want to join us, it's going to be a loaded show. We're going to have 4 segments. It's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button right now if you haven't already, and join us for our live show tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe Brandon Aiyuk will get traded to the Steelers tomorrow. No matter what happens, we're going to have you guys covered with the latest surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers. So join the almost 60,000 people already subscribed to the channel right now and join our family.